Hello and welcome to the DJ Force 10 in Conversation podcast, episode 166. And my very special guest on today's show is none other than the frontman of Hed PE, Jared. We talk all things new album, Class of 2020, that is due out later this month. We've also got the 20th anniversary of Broke, which was their sort of breakthrough album back 20 years ago. And all things around that and everything. And it was an absolute pleasure to speak to him. It kind of happened last minute. It was kind of like a sort of like an ask and receive very quickly on that side of things. So I was very unprepared, but it was a great chat. I didn't have to really prepare much at all. He really took it. But yeah, no, thank you for that. And thank you for everyone that's been down last week. Fantastic reception from all three podcasts last week. We had Joe Bouchard, we had Static X, and we had Bleed Again. Again, go check out all those bands now, or groups, or singles, whoever they are. Go check them out now, and let me know what you think. With Hed PE, they've got a brand new track out at the moment. Oh, cool. First Blood. That is from their new album. But go back and listen to Broke. It's fantastic. It's got like loads of like guest vocalists on it and stuff like that. And it was just like one of those albums that really broke through at the time. They had a track called Bartender, which is still big in the sort of rock clubs now. And Killing Time as well, and it just great tracks, great band. Absolutely love speaking to them. But without much further ado, apart from saying thank you for liking, subscribing, and all that kind of jazz, keep that up, pass it on to your friends and whatnot. But right now, this is Jared from Hed PE. Enjoy. So, I'd like to welcome to my show this week, I have Jared, the frontman from the band Hed PE. Welcome.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely my pleasure. Like I said before, man, it's, my history of you guys goes back a very long way. Obviously, you've got your 20th anniversary of Broke coming up.
Wow,
which we're going to chat about, but my love for you guys goes back to the first album.
Wow.
The self-titled.
How old were you when it came out?
17.
Oh, nice. Yeah, perfect.
So it hit me right in the sweet spot. As did Broke as well, to be fair. And I actually got the pleasure of supporting you guys on a couple of shows in England.
Oh, amazing. So amazing. What town?
Camberley.
Okay.
The Agincourt, the venue was called. Town
that
called...
sounds familiar.
Yeah, and the town called Reading. There's a venue called Sub 89. And I want to say there was a London show in there somewhere, but I can't be sure.
Which was probably... Yeah, London and Reading are always pretty sweet, yeah.
Yeah, and it was absolutely because I was a DJ in a metal band here, so like,
oh, nice.
The whole like the rap metal, new metal, whatever you want to call it at that time, I gravitated towards. I had a brief chat with I think it was Product at the time, in both times, in fact, because we were just sort of like talking DJ,
of course,
as we do when we get together like that. But I just want to say it's an absolute damn pleasure to speak to you. Genuinely, I'm a fan. I've got pretty much your entire discography as well. So, I've kissed your ass enough at that point, I think. So,
I appreciate it.
No, it's all good. But yeah, what would talk about first? Let's talk about the 20th anniversary of Broke. Because we'll get onto, you got a new album coming out as well, which we'll talk about.
Yeah,
but I just want to say that album, my favourite tracks on there, Killing Time, Bartender, which I think is the ones you've actually released, and I Got You as well was one of my favourite tracks. Take me back, if you can, to that sort of like time in your career. What was it kind of like for you?
Wow. You know what? It's just, I'm sure most people, when you look 20 years back, they're going to be like, that was a different era for me, and I'm no different. You know, 20 years ago was such a crazy time in my life because, you know, we had already signed the big deal and had the first album out, and it did okay. I think it had sold, I mean, these are old school numbers, like 30,000. But, but the record company made us like, I think it was 5 years between the first and second record or something crazy like that. But we done a lot of touring and, even though it was a quote unquote $1 million record deal, I was totally broke by the time that the second record came around. And there was a lot of, the kind of the cliches of being a rock guy, of the kind of chemical abuse that was going on in my life at the time. So, let's see, Broke, we recorded in New Jersey with a guy named Machine who went on to be extremely rich and wealthy by producing Lamb of God. And so, he was still just, in a tiny studio at the time. But anyway, so this was one of these weird ones where I was like writing the songs like the night before I had to record my part.
Ah, okay.
So that's how that record was written. I believe my favorite artist at the time was like DMX, maybe.
Okay.
I think that was the case. What I do, whatever year it was, when I Google up like the top rock songs or the top pop songs, it helps me to orient myself into what I was doing at the time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, at my age, everything becomes kind of a big blur. But, Broke was this thing, though, because Bartender came out and then immediately sold like 30,000 in 1 week. And that was like what the first record did in 5 years. So it was already, it felt, and I was so disillusioned, or not, I had delusions of grandeur at the time, thinking, oh wow, that's it for me, now I've got this career that's set in stone, and geez, this is great. 20 years later, it's like, oh, how wrong and what a clown I was to think that. But live and learn, because the song, although it did really well at first, kind of as quick as it did well, kind of left the charts as well. And then reality kind of crept in, which was great though, because you know what, 20 years later, bro, I'm just I still do it,
Yeah.
I still rock, and I'm still recording, and I've written 150 published songs, bro. So, and at the time the number was probably 20.
Yeah.
So, but it was, that record label that doesn't exist anymore, Jive, who was like doing Britney Spears and the Backstreet Boys, right? Like those guys were like flying me out to New York from Cali once a week and treating me like royalty. And I was in the same, conference rooms that all those people were that went on to make millions, and whatever. So it was kind of a weird, trippy time, and I stayed in the really expensive, famous New York hotels. So I'm looking back on this, I don't even think about that stuff very much. But right now that it's the 20th anniversary, sometimes I do, and it's really weird, I didn't go on to have the enchanted career of like millions and millions of records, but I've sold 1 million records, but it took me fucking 10 records. No, but but I still feel so grateful for just the journey. Not, because now I have a wife and a son, and I met my wife on tour 18 years ago or something.
Cool.
Dude, it was around Broke too. So that I met my wife. So that is a trip, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, and now I've got a 13-year-old son, and he's like 6 foot tall. And I'm still doing it. And I've been doing like live streams with DJ Product and Shazad on Fridays and stuff, because those are the two guys that I'm most tight with of the original lineup. And then Chad has like footage from the Broke days that he's like edited into like, to different songs. So I just saw the one he did for I Got You. And it's just, you know what? It's been such a wild ride that I kind of haven't allowed myself to kind of kick back and enjoy old footage. But now I'm doing it because of the pandemic and all that. Yeah. So I'm just like home, and it was because of the pandemic that I even was able to put out a 20th anniversary record. Because if it wasn't, I'm just on tour all the time.
Yeah. I've noticed you guys, you do tour extensively. I mean, I lived over in America for about 5 or 6 years. I was over in Florida, in fact, and you guys came around there quite often.
Well, that's one of my good markets. Yeah. So you were in that state. Yeah. If you were in Mississippi, it wouldn't have been the case.
No, I kind of got that. I was quite lucky about where I was because they had a good sort of rock scene, generally locally. They had a good scene, local bands.
Yeah, Florida has a scene.
And then, when they brought in, the sort of national acts like yourself, they brought over Skindred from England on a couple of shows and all that kind of stuff. So I got to sort of, go see them as well, which was kind of cool. And, other bands like Fozzy and stuff like that. It was just and you guys came into town and it was fucking, I mean, I love your live shows. I mean, I saw you live, back when you came to England, I think probably your first or probably second tour. I think you were supporting, the name escapes me right now, but I think it was the London Astoria.
Might be Papa Roach because we tour with them forever.
Yes, that might have been it. That might, yeah, definitely. And since then, obviously playing with you guys as well, like I've already mentioned, and then just seeing you guys in these venues, but you still keep that energy. There's that certain spark that you have that you've always kind of maintained through every time I've seen you on that front.
It's interesting. It's because I'm feeling that inside, right? It's a sort of just a feeling when you play. I don't know for sure when you're playing that music. You've been on stage. It's loud. Yeah. Even when there's not even a crowd there. Yeah. You just get in that zone where the vibe is just hitting you. Hard to describe, but you know what I'm talking about. But I would have to liken it to some sort of athletic activity. Yeah. Because that's kind of the other situation where you're kind of in the moment and just all about it. Because if you're not, then something bad will happen, So, for me, and my vocals are physical too, right? So it's there's a certain level of physical activity that I have to put into motion to even get the sound out. So then, every time I'm doing it, I have to get certain involved in a emotional way.
Yes. Yeah. No, definitely. I definitely feel that. And it's sort of because I've always with vocalists, I was a vocalist for a little while for a different band, but how did you maintain that kind of, because you kind of keep that kind of smooth kind of you've got that rap and punk kind of thing rocking, and then you start screaming out. How do you balance that kind of those two vibes?
Well, I think part of it goes back to just my upbringing, my cultural upbringing, because my parents were immigrants from Brazil to the U.S. Yeah. So I'm not African American, but I might be related to some African Americans by way of the 25% of, Congo and South African blood that I have. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But the reason I bring it up is because I didn't grow up in the quote unquote hood. Okay. So I grew up with all the kind of, we can call it white influences, for lack of a better term. We'll use the term that is used. Yes. So growing up with, just a bunch of, pale faces or whatever, that's how I grew up. So I grew up loving rock, There was and my parents being from Brazil, they didn't know anything about R&B or soul music. They were into very stuffy, gospel, not even, the gospel would not even be true. Just the Christian music you hear in Southern Baptist churches, because my dad was a preacher, but he would be preaching in all white churches. So that's how I was brought up. But the reason I it up, right, was because I discovered hip hop the same time my white counterparts did. And so I think because of that, it brought a certain balance to the two genres for me because, being a darky, amongst a bunch of pale faces, I was certainly could feel my darkness through NWA and Ice Cube and Snoop Dogg. Like, that kind of helped me. That helped me to kind of feel myself in the kind of, because I'm a mixed person, right? Yeah. Anyway, because I'm like here with 70% European, 20% African, and the rest, Native American. I think that it's interesting that my mixed culture is represented in the kind of mixed music that I'm creating.
Yeah.
But I do think that, what? Because sometimes you'll see bands and then their punk isn't punk and their hip hop isn't hip hop.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
It just kind of skirts the line. For me, though, Hed PE has always been able to kind of go where we want to go. Make the hip hop real hip hop, and then make the punk and hardcore real punk and hardcore. Yes.
No, that was going to be my next thing, because you do have that, you've got the sort of straight up 3-chord punk songs. You've got the sort of smooth kind of more on the R&B rap side and stuff like that, and it's just you make it work. You can put together these albums, and over the time that I've listened to you, you've become more sort of I feel you've come a bit more punk rock recently.
Definitely
on that front, but compared to the sort of early stuff.
Good ear. You have a good ear. Yeah, dude. I was just as you're talking, I'm thinking about what you're saying, but a second before you say it.
Okay.
Because the original guitar players for Hed PE were really good at their instruments.
Yeah.
Okay. They're really masterful at their instruments, and they kind of would back it up a bit to make the music thrashy, right?
Mm.
Kind of loosen up their grip on that guitar so it sounds thrashy, right?
Yeah.
But then, of course, for me, punk comes out of not really being that good, which that's me. I pick up the guitar and I'm not that good on it, but I can write a song on it.
Yeah.
Right. So now, and then I just kind of more got into the real punk of Minor Threat and all that kind of after the first 3 records,
Yeah.
and the Clash. So that's why it kind of evolved to be more punky, because those are reflect me more grabbing the guitar and writing, a guy who sucks at guitar, but still doing it anyway.
Yeah.
That was kind of good though about the original Hed PE drummer was kind of had a garage funk, where now my guy is real funk. But you know what? Everything in its time is right for when you're doing it in its time.
Yeah.
It's hard to judge stuff in a different time. Like me wearing spandex in the 80s, sure, looks funny now.
Yes.
But at the time, everyone was doing it.
That's very true. Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. No, no, definitely. Yeah, no, you're right. It was for its time on that front. But what we're going to check that out. You've got a new album coming out, which is amazing.
Yeah.
You got it coming out in the same month, 20 years later, as Broke. It's called Class of 2020. What can you tell us about that? I mean, I've heard First Blood. Got that streaming on my chosen streaming service, if you will.
Thank you.
And I really dig it. Because I love you guys' stuff, so it's almost a given on that front. But I really like the track. I also, because when we're not in lockdown, I normally DJ metal clubs and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm always playing you guys, whether it's POS or Bartender or Killing Time or the other tracks I mentioned. I'm going to be playing First Blood,
sure,
because it's got that kind of punky rock club vibe as well. So
definitely, yeah.
But how's the album? In your own words, what can we expect from this album?
Okay, well, I purposely try to kind of tap in on some broke vibes. But what I noticed when I've been watching, but I don't listen to broke, but what I noticed when I've been doing my live streams on Fridays and we kind of revisit it is, wow, how just like my taste in music is just so different. Like we were talking about, with the streaming, songs have gotten shorter. Yeah. And and so the songs that I write have gotten noticeably shorter, but they still kind of hit all the bases. But then again, some hardcore punk is definitely short, fucking song, 2 minutes.
Yes.
But even though I hit broke vibes on this record, there's still an updated kind of approach, but not really, because what I really stuck to is just the kind of punk rock lineup with drums, bass, one guitar, and a mic.
Yeah.
And really stuck it to that, and the vocals are not processed at all, and I stayed away from stacking up guitars and all this. I just wanted that straight ahead sound, and I got it, like you hear on First Blood, which is so the Clash influenced, right?
Yeah.
And I also hear in my influence of Refused in that opening riff. But yeah, bro, like I say, the record was written post COVID-19, but pre-social unrest, right? Like,
okay.
The record was done before the kind of global unrest type of thing was going on.
Yeah.
But what's funny is then if you listen to the record, it sounds like there's a certain timelessness to some of the lyrics in terms of it sounds like they were written in response to social unrest.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing I found. Like, even what was it? Recently, Ice-T released No Lives Matter. It's like 3 years after that came out, like on the album side of things.
Right.
But it was 3 years ago, and obviously this sort of upheaval has been going on
forever. Yeah, for a while.
Yeah, forever. I mean,
colonialism.
Yeah.
Colonialism, right? This is where it begins. This is where, and I wouldn't even call it the trouble, because, the world moves in certain ways. And as we were just talking about, when you're in the middle of it, you don't know what you're doing. It seemed like a good idea to go ahead and take over other countries. But, I wonder if they could look a few hundred years in the future and see, oh, wow, we're going to have to live with these people as equals.
Yeah. It's that hindsight. It's 2020,
maybe
right?
They would have stayed home. Maybe they would have
Yeah.
I'm just cracking myself up here. But, because, dude, you think about it, look at the Spanish, right? Like, they're not even looked at as white people anymore because they've subjugated so many darkies all over the planet. So many dark people speaking Spanish, you don't even think of the originators.
Yeah.
But anyway, the reason I brought that up is because that's where the timelessness of all these lyrics and the social unrest comes. Yeah. Because, you have this time of colonialism where people are basically, taking over other cultures and countries by means of force. And then all of a sudden, those means of force start to not mean anything. It's 300 years later, but yet we're living in the remnants of that activity.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, and I would even chalk up my existence to that, and it's all just good fun. I think, if you step back, you can see everything's moving in the right direction.
Yeah, hopefully something better is gonna come from this, like this side of things.
I have faith in that. I have faith in that.
I can't really comment. I'm a white guy. It's one of those things where I've not lived with that my entire life. I've had bouts of like being bullied and whatnot when I was younger, but that's nothing compared to a lifetime of like constantly sort of being belittled by these people.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. I know what you're saying, but let's it shouldn't, everybody's experience is a bit different. Like for me, I would never articulate it as a lifetime of being oppressed, right? Because that's certainly not the case. At certain times, I would even use the word bullied in the way you just used it, in the place of like any racist, whatever thing coming against me. Felt like bullying, but with the foundation of racism or whatever. Yeah. But again, though, I'm lucky, though, because my parents came here as college graduates and raised me in middle class neighborhoods. You know what I mean? So when I look at like my darker counterparts who seriously are living out the legacy of slavery, like descendants of slaves in poor parts of the country. Like that's a real thing. Yeah. Like that's not like someone's opinion. That's just a thing, so like what you were saying, that is something that has to be looked at. Yeah. Definitely. Not by me though. No.
Fair enough. But on this album, you've also got
too complicated.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Let's get back to the album before we go further down that rabbit hole. No, I was just going to say you've got DJ Product on the album as well. He features on a track, and Chad as well. So obviously bringing like original members back in. How was that for you? Just like obviously there are any sort of guesting on tracks.
Well, that's just the best. Well, that's the most amazing thing, right? Let me put it to you this way, right? Because I've had probably 7 different drummers, 4 different guitar players, and 2 different bass players, whatever. The point I'm making is you try to make do because you try to always be constantly moving forward. But what was the question again?
Oh, no, it was just like, what was it like bringing them back into the recording
DJ
studio?
Product. Listen, here's the thing. And the reason I brought it up is, everybody has a different reason why we're not playing actively together in the band anymore. Yeah. And certainly for DJ Product, I would love to be able to take DJ Product on the road. Yeah. Cause, I love that guy, and having him on the record, was, amazing, dude. He just, immediately adds a vibe. Track number 5, Last Call, is where within the first 2 bars, you hear that Product come in with that scratching, nice. Which is amazing. Yeah. It's not just scratching, it's dropping something that he found. Yeah. Cause he's one of them old school DJs, but nothing against new school DJs. I'm sure it's amazing as well. And I'm proud of him cause he's got all the new stuff too. Yeah. Cause that's one thing I pride myself in is evolving with all this technology. Bro, listen, what we did broke to get we were doing it on 2-inch tape, right? Yeah. Okay. And 2 machines running 2-inch tape, right? Yeah. Each song had 2 reels going. By the time the record was done, in order to transport the tape from a recording to mixing, you had to rent a U-Haul box truck. Yeah. Okay, because you're in New York City. Anyway, okay, so nowadays, though, I'll give it to you on my flash drive. Fuck a flash drive, dude. It only has to exist on the internet. Yeah. I'll send it to you on the internet, and I'll use WeTransfer for free. Dude, amazing, right? When Broke came out on cassette. Okay? Yeah. No more cassette. Barely even find a CD player in a car these days.
Yeah, that's true.
Dude, so amazing to just be sitting here and just with the same girl and know that that a guy from the UK who used to listen to me when he was a teenager took the time out to give me a call. And ask my opinion about this record is just amazing, dude.
No, it's just amazing. No, it's absolutely amazing speaking to you, man. Yeah. I've got just a couple of questions left, if that's all right, and then I can. Yeah, sure. I don't know if you've got loads of these lined up or not. But
I got another one, yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, these are just sort of like ones that kind of just encompass your sort of like influences and stuff. But what I want to find out are your like 3 most pivotal albums, the ones that kind of made you want to be who you are today. You're like the rock star, if you will.
That's a great question. Dude, I don't think I've ever been asked that. For sure, Rush, Moving Pictures.
Nice.
Okay.
Yep.
Rush, Moving Pictures. AC/DC, Back in Black.
Nice.
I'm such a geezer, right? A proper geezer. yeah, dude. Okay. And then I'm going to have to say next, the third one's more tough, though.
Okay.
Because it's a toss-up between Rage Against the Machine's first. Oh, wait, let's not, dude. And the Bob Marley's greatest hits.
Yeah.
Dude, I would just gotta go with Bob Marley's greatest hits.
Go with Bob Marley. That's always good.
Yeah.
No, I mean, those are 3 fantastic and very different albums as well. So I love that.
Is that my childhood, dude? Yeah.
No, I love that. And finally, what are your hobbies away from music? So when you're not like doing anything Hed PE or anything like that, what do you kind of do?
Hobbies away from music, right?
Yeah.
Hobbies is an interesting word because when you use that word, I want to say I don't have any hobbies. You know what I mean? Because I'll tell you what, though, like the Hed PE thing, it's like all encompassing. Like, you know what I mean, dude? Like, I get up out of bed, I walk upstairs, and I'm in my studio, right?
Yeah.
And so like, music is my hobby. It's my living. Of course, dude. I don't like when people list fitness as a hobby because that's just lifestyle.
Yeah.
Because I'm a fit person, but that's not a hobby. That's my lifestyle.
Yeah.
But I don't have hobbies.
What about, like, if I rephrase it as, what are your passions away from music?
Yeah, away from music, and again, it's like...
Is it still...
I'm just like... I guess I'm kind of a boring guy in that all I do is just kind of the music. Lately I've been up there like into the tech world learning how to live stream.
Oh, okay.
So that's been my thing lately. I've been learning how to live stream and using this OBS studio and bought a laptop to do all this live streaming.
Nice.
But that's just recent, but that's fun. I skateboard too. And now my son, I've always used to force him to skateboard. And he just since the pandemic has done skateboarding. So,
nice.
I'll build him a ramp, and stuff. But again, I don't consider those hobbies. That's just what I'm doing for the fam.
Yeah. No, I'm doing the same for my daughter. Actually, she got a penny board for her birthday, so I've been teaching her to ride that, which has been kind of cool. So
that's amazing. Yeah. So how old is she then?
She has just turned 11.
Okay. Yeah. So, see, mine's about to turn 13.
Yeah, I've got a 12-year-old as well and a 17-year-old. So.
Oh, you're blessed.
Yes, I'm a family man now. So
amazing, bro. Amazing.
Cool. Well, that's all I got for you, man.
Very good, brother.
Absolute damn pleasure speaking to you.
Good talking to you, brother.
Hopefully we'll see you over here once everything gets all clear and everything.
Guaranteed.
Again, thank you very much. Honestly, I really appreciate it.
Okay, brother. Have a good time.
Have a good rest of your day.
Same to you, brother. Thank you.